Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Archie's Briefings. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, coming to you guys from the Kingdom Cigar Lounge. Now, today, you guys, we're going to be doing a reaction video to Kamala Harris Fox News interview with Bret Baier. Now, I have a lot of opinions about what went down with this interview. First of all, there was way too much hype for something that didn't really deliver, which is not a shocker, I guess, because this woman is just hollow in every single which way you can possibly think of. She has no real ideas that are her own. And she just wants to spew platitudes, hollow platitudes, because that's all she is. Just there's nothing really to offer there whatsoever. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it, shall we?
There is something that has been on my heart that I did want to discuss. Discipline is a huge part of being productive, being lucrative. I'm not for anything that goes against true productivity, true sovereignty of the individual. The choices that we make are what's going to be up for judgment.
So you guys know I just absolutely love my show Open. Matthew Torrance did an incredible job. And so if you're anything like me and you're a podcaster, you're a YouTuber, and you want to have original music for your show, definitely reach out to Matthew Torrance at scoresomemusic.com. He is fantastic. He delivered every which way that I wanted him to. I said, this is the style of music that I wanted, and he gave it to me. Rather than using music from a free app, go ahead and reach out to Matthew Torrance because he's a human being. And we just covered an episode about the problems with robots and AI software. Why go to the automation when you can go to a human being who listens to you about what you want in your music? If you're the musician who's not good with actually creating the music, if you're a good lyricist, reach out to Matthew Torrance. He's going to give you everything that you're looking for. He did for me. He's going to do incredible work for you as well. So let's go ahead, you guys. Let's get into the episode, shall we? Okay, you guys. So as I said in the open, this interview with Kamala Harris, a lot of hype, and she didn't deliver. I knew she wasn't going to deliver. I remember when this whole thing came out and everyone was saying, oh, it's finally happening. She's reaching out. She's going into the other side. She's actually willing to sit down with the opponents. I guess you could say friendlier interviewers, friendlier journalists, friendlier media, more friendly to the conservative ideas. And so we kind of expected hard questions, tough questions if she sits down with the other side. Most of the time, if she's doing an interview at all with the mainstream media, she's sitting down with MSNBC, CNN. But then even when she's doing those interviews, she's not doing all that well. I don't need to pull up those clips. You obviously know how bad she was doing in those. The interviewers were looking at her like she was insane. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can't answer the questions. The Oprah interview, Oprah's face is looking like this woman is horrible. She uses the same lines over and over again. Even if it's paraphrased, even if she says it in some different kind of a way, she's still saying the same thing. I grew up in a middle-class family. I was raised by a single mother. My mother raised two Black girls. We were all proud of our lawns. When the audience was asking questions, she tried to relate to them by bringing this up rather than answering the question on how she intends on helping the economy. On any question she gets about the economy, on immigration, it's always the same thing. I grew up in the middle class. We care about public safety. I want to do what's right for small businesses without actually giving specific details. If she does give specific details, she stole them from Trump. Oh, I'm going to get rid of the tax on tips. That was Trump's plan. When it comes to the illegal immigration, oh, he stopped a bipartisan bill because he didn't want to solve the problem because it wouldn't help him politically. But you've been in there for 3.5 years. She's saying 9 months ago. We're going to get into that. But of course, this Fox interview, one of the biggest criticisms that she had was that she wasn't sitting down talking to the other side. After the debate she had with President Trump, she was asking for a rematch. First of all, winners don't ask for rematches, okay? When you know you won, you're not asking for a second. You're not. You're just not doing that. If I won, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead because I knew there was going to be some nonsense. There was, and I still beat you. It wasn't a slaughtering, but it was a campaign death by 1,000 cuts. So he won that. She's asking for a rematch. And what was the main thing that was clear? I said this after the debate when I posted my video about that debate. The woman doesn't need another debate. The woman needs interviews because the biggest criticism before and after that debate was she needs more interviews. Finally, she was doing more. She was sitting down with YouTubers. She was sitting down with podcasters. And then there have been criticisms about the interviews on those. So she has a hard time just verbalizing her ideas because she doesn't have any. She has a hard time verbalizing what her policies are going to be because they're not even really hers. So how can I in depth answer your questions about what my ideas are if I don't have any ideas and the ideas are not even mine? So that was a big thing. Sitting down with Brett Baier, sitting down with Fox News suggested, at least from the left, that she was strong enough to sit down with the opposing side. That unlike Trump, I can sit down with the other side. Unlike Trump, I'm not afraid to sit across the table from someone who disagrees with me. Unlike Trump, I mean, this is the big thing here, right? Because one of the biggest ways of promoting this interview was that I'm not afraid of sitting down with someone who I disagree with, whereas Trump is. He's afraid to debate me. His campaign is hiding him from debating me. So I'm going to go and I'm going to sit down with Fox News just to prove that I can handle it where he can't. Never mind the fact that he sits down with CNN. Never mind the fact that he sat down with MSNBC. Never mind the fact that he takes questions from the reporters at the press conferences. Never mind the fact that he sat down with the National Black Association of Journalists. Never mind any of those things, right? So clearly, he's not afraid to go where he's not welcome. Clearly, he's not afraid to go where he's not liked. The man does rallies in New York, okay? In New York. This is one of the most liberal states ever, okay? And he can go and have rallies with thousands of people in New York where he's most likely going to lose. No Republican is winning in New York. At least not, I don't think in my lifetime. If we have till I'm 80 years old, hey, who knows? I don't see that happening anytime soon. But he rallies there. He's not afraid to go where he's not welcome. He's not afraid at all. I find that to be the case with a lot of these younger conservatives. They're not afraid to sit down with MSNBC, CNN, some of the leftist media. We know that Byron Donalds was not afraid to sit down with MSNBC or the Breakfast Club. We know that a lot of conservatives are not afraid to sit down with the Breakfast Club and a lot of other these liberal entertainment media companies. He's not afraid to do that, whereas she was. So this was her accusation. This was her argument to say he's afraid and she isn't. And then she gets up there and she did poorly. Now, I don't know if this is entirely true, but apparently this interview was supposed to be an hour long. First, it was supposed to be about a half hour with Brett Baier. And then afterwards, it was supposed to be a panel where you have the audience, I'm assuming, or the panelists asking her questions on the issues. Obviously, the top two issues for the American people right now are number one, the economy, number two, illegal immigration, both of which Trump is stronger in, both of which the American people, whether you are left or right, are saying they trust Trump with these issues more than they trust Kamala Harris. This interview was done in Pennsylvania, a swing state. That's the state in which I'm in. So many ads, you guys. And Brett did bring that up, which I was very happy because, like, so many ads. I'm ready for this damn election to be over because I'm watching football and I'm sick and tired of these damn advertisements. I don't care when I'm watching the Giants. I don't care when I'm watching football, or baseball. I want to watch my Yankees. Where are the beer commercials? Where are the Doritos commercials? I'm over it. Okay. Side note. But essentially, this was a big deal for her because, right, you have to appeal to the swing states. Obviously, you have to appeal to men voters, specifically men, because you're losing male voters. It was really important that she did very well in this, and she didn't. And apparently she raged quit. Her team was shutting it down. Brett Baier comes out and says all these different things were happening. So before I go any further with what I think about what actually happened here, I'm going to run just some portions of this interview because she did poorly. The first part we're going to show is her answering the questions as it relates to illegal immigration. Let's go ahead and let's run that, shall we?
That immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3?
It already started. Look at it. It's already starting. Like, you know what I'm going to talk about. You know what we want to talk about. Answer the question, woman. Answer the question.
Million.
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your
And-
Homeland Security Secretary said that
Well, no,
85%
but
of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get you the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act.
Okay, so before I let this broad go on any further, notice in that part, she's like, before we did, she's assuming these are good things. The infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, she goes on to say the CHIPS Act. We don't care about those. We're talking about immigration, woman. Do you regret the decisions you made in your earliest days of taking the oath of office? Okay. Oh, we had policies that we wanted to push forward. Okay, fine. But why did you reverse the Remain in Mexico policy? That was a big thing. That was actually doing some securing of our border. I mean, some of the accusations are made that the reason why they overturned or got rid of those executive orders brought to us by President Trump is because Trump was the one who was responsible for it. So they exacerbated the issue just so they can solve the issue, so they can get all of the support saying why the Biden and Harris administration solved the border problem where Trump did not. Okay. The only reason why I don't go for that particular answer as to why they reversed these policies is because if they wanted to solve it, then they just would have reinstated the Remain in Mexico policy. So that way people could be saying it was Biden's policy, not Trump's. I mean, it wouldn't be true, but at the very least, they would be able to say that they did bring that forward. They didn't do that. They haven't fixed the problem. It's only gotten worse. And so, hello, speak to that, woman. What do you mean? Before we did all these other things, we had a policy ready to go. Yeah, but you had the Remain in Mexico policy. You had the materials and the border wall paid for. All it had to do was be built. That's all you had to do. Right? Trump would not have any reason to be running for re-election again if he had actually seen some real progress with the Biden and Harris administration. Had the border czar had just kept in place the Remain in Mexico policy, had they not reversed some of the border policies that he had put in place, we wouldn't have the problems that we're having here. So now, do you regret that decision? Well, before we did this, that, and the third, yada, yada, and so forth. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, there was a lot just about the immigration, and there were so many other parts of just the immigration parts of it that I think really had her flustered. And I'm going to play the additional clip for you guys where he's asking her about the crime that was taking place that was actually brought to the hearing. A lot of the illegal crimes, that the illegal alien crimes that are committed by the illegals was brought to Congress. And you saw a lot of these families of the victims of illegal immigration speaking their truth, their realities because of the policies brought to us by Biden and Harris. And her being the border czar, at any moment, she could have taken any action. She likes to say, oh, I was just the vice president. Because I was the vice president, I didn't have full authority to do that. He made you in charge of the border. So all you had to do was reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, and that would have assisted, that would have helped, and that would be helping you in the campaign. Well, we can't really put that on her. We got to put it on Biden because she was a vice president. No, she was made the border czar, meaning you are in charge of this. If I give you this responsibility, I'm expecting you to do it well, okay? I don't want anything to do with it. You do it. She could have just reinstated those policies as the vice president and the border czar. She didn't do any of those things, okay? I'm going to pull up the clip for you guys where she's talking. Well, Brett asks her about the families who were victims, the victims' families of illegals, talking about why they believe that the Biden-Harris open borders are responsible for the loss of their loved ones. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play that for you guys next.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do
Right.
you owe them an apology is what
I
I'm
will
saying.
tell you that I am so sorry for her loss.
Not an
I'm so
apology.
sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what
That's like saying, I mean, like, what she's saying is, I'm sorry something horrible happened to you and yours, but I'm not responsible for it. So she's not taking responsibility as the borders are, as the one in power, as vice president, and Biden as the president. I'm not taking responsibility for the life loss, but I'm sorry the life loss has affected you. I'm sorry that this terrible thing has actually affected you. And what is Brett getting at here? Do you owe them an apology? Because in the early days, like when you finished taking the oath, the first things you did was reverse a lot of what Trump had actually done. And you're not taking responsibility for the actions of these policies. Now, this is one of the things that I constantly try to explain to people who want to support Kamala Harris. This woman's ideas are not hers. This woman is not even duly elected to even be the Democratic candidates, but you want to talk to me about saving democracy. You think Orange Man is the bad guy here, when in actuality, you didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I got to vote for Trump when it came to the primary for the Republicans. I had Ron DeSantis to pick from. I had Tim Scott. I had Vivek Ramaswamy. There was Nikki Haley. I had all of these people that I could have chosen other than Trump, and I got to vote for Trump. Did you get the chance to vote for Kamala Harris when it came to picking who the Democratic candidate for the 24 election would be? No, you didn't. So who's really the threat to democracy here, right? And then because of their policies, these individuals' loved ones are dead. How many Americans have suffered, lost their lives, are being prioritized over because of these illegals, because of the policies coming to you from Kamala Harris? She can't accept responsibility for her actions, or Biden's for that matter. They go further on to discuss what point did she know that Joe Biden was not all there in the head. She didn't want to say, she didn't answer. As you go further on, she gets more and more flustered with this. And here's the thing, you guys, because I could go on and on with showing you guys clips, but chances are you watch it. If you're watching this channel, you've probably already watched it. There's no reason for me to pull up any more of those clips. You already know. Okay, the illegal immigration thing is becoming such a problem, not becoming, but has become such a problem in this country that New York is thinking about doing something. She had all this time. You had over 1,000 days to make something happen. You didn't do nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like the woman's got me speaking in proper English. Yo. She was not prepared to do this interview. And here's the thing about those questions, right? It was supposed to be an hour long. Should have been an hour. She raged quit. This is one of the reports that are coming out about this whole thing. Brett Baer, I think it was the day before yesterday, before that interview happened, he did make his rounds around Fox saying that this is his strategy. This is what I'm planning on doing. These are the types of questions, how I get my questions, how the format's going to go. We're going to have a half hour to do the interview one-on-one, and then we're going to do a panel discussion. Where the hell was the panel? There was no panel. She raged quit. She constantly keeps talking when you get to the end of this whole thing. And I think she was running out the clock. Okay, that's the last clip I'm going to show you guys, because really that's the part that really kind of wowed me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you where there was a lot of places where this went crazy, but I'm just going to get to the end for you guys, because really it's that part that kind of let me know what I needed to know.
your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision that they feel.
Who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive
important
and
that
should
she
be
said I got pages of policies.
accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
And that's
Like,
why
wrap
we
it up.
invited you
strengthen our
here,
economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are
support
now.
She's still going.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
It's time.
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
This is horrible. Sean, get some winners. It's like, sorry, people. There are only a few people on Fox I actually like. It's not that I don't like Hannity. He's just not the person I'm listening to. Anyhow, okay. So you guys saw that, right? She keeps on, they're rapping me really hard, Madam Vice President. They're rapping me really hard. Stop talking. You had your chance to answer questions. You didn't want to answer them. Oh, I really wanted to go further into this and the third. Talk to your team. Your team felt like you were doing dismally because this is why it was over. There was no panel discussion. They're telling me to wrap it up hard. There was no panel. Like, woman, when you had the time to answer questions, you wanted to throw out hollow platitudes. You wanted to be hella repetitive of the things that you've already said in previous interviews. I hope you got the chance to say what you wanted to say about President Trump. And you saw the look on his face when she's just, yep, This is the same face Oprah had. It's the same face when she had that 16-minute, what was it? It wasn't necessarily a pre-recorded one. It was, local news, that guy. I mean, come on. They have the same face looking at her. Yeah. This woman did not deliver. The campaign seems to have been worried because all the reactions that I'm seeing on all over YouTube, she didn't do that well. She didn't do well. We're worried. It didn't help her. They were filming in Pennsylvania. This was supposed to help her get some more of the male voters. It didn't do anything. It did absolutely nothing. Because when I ask you questions about what your priorities are, do you still have the same beliefs that you had in 2019? Why should we believe any differently? And then he tries to help her. So you've had an evolution. So you've evolved from those ideas. Okay, that's fine. But when he gave her the opportunity to take it, like, yeah, you had an evolution. You could say that. You could say, I've evolved from those previous ideas. People grow, they learn. In 4 years' time, 5 years' time, I've changed my mind on certain things. You could say that. Fine. That's good. But she didn't even take it. She didn't even take it. She wants to spend her time talking trash about President Trump. The contrast is important. We know what we get with Trump. We know him. We know him. Since Trump came down the escalator, politicians have had to sit down with the opposition. Okay? You have to earn these votes. You have to earn our minds and our hearts. Kamala is just not doing it at all. Her interviews go dismally, and she knows it. The Democrats are in panic mode because is she going to take other Democrats with them? Yeah, because we might win the presidency, but is it going to be the red wave? And that's what they're concerned about. Now, I say all this to say that this was entertaining. I won't even lie. It was entertaining how bad she was. There were questions that needed to be asked, but never got the chance to be asked because she raged quit. Those are the reports. I'm just going to go with that. I'm assuming that's what happened because by his words, the day prior to the interview, he said 30-minute interview, and then the rest of it's going to be a panel discussion. And that didn't happen. So you guys let me know in the comment sections. What do you think? Do you think that Kamala did well? I don't think she did. I think she did poorly. Do you think Brett Baier asked serious questions? Did you like the questions? I thought he did okay. He didn't do poorly, right? These questions really shouldn't have been difficult to answer. She came prepared. She seemed unprepared. She didn't really know how to explain herself on these ideas, except for saying why she's better than Donald Trump. And no proof in the pudding, clearly, because this is a very unique position. Both candidates have been in positions of power. One was and one is. And so we have actual official records to check. Well, when Trump was in office, the economy was doing better. There was no chance of nuclear annihilation. The Americans felt safe. Whereas under you and Biden, the economy is going in the opposite direction. Every year, the amount of money people have to make, even more so, an extra $12,000 to $15,000 a year just to compensate for that difference. Every year, it adds on another couple of hundred to a little over 1,000, depending on the state that you're living in, because of the Biden policies. Inflation is out of whack. And Under your administration, we got to $35 trillion in deficit. A lot of things were not covered in this because she raged quit. And let me know if you think that. So you guys, again, I can go on forever about this. So I'm just going to stop now. Get in the comments and let me know what you think about this interview. She did poorly, in my opinion. A lot of hype for something that wasn't even all that good. Not so much because of Brett, but because of Kamala Harris. I wasn't surprised. Were you? I don't think you should have been. Let me know in the comment sections. You guys can follow me on LinkedIn at Arshel Branch. You can follow me on Twitter at Archie_finance. And you can follow me on Instagram at Archie Financial. You can support the channel by cash apping me at hashtag Arshel Branch. Yeah. This wasn't that good. But I hope you think this show is by supporting the channel at hashtag Arshel Branch. You can cash at me at hashtag Arshel Branch. The link to the Cash App is in the description box at the top of the page on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this video. Like this video. Help us out with the algorithm. Help this channel get up to 1,000 subscribers. And thank you guys so much for watching. I love doing the show. I love the background. I love everything about doing this. And I love reaching out to the viewers. So thank you all for watching. You all have a good day. God bless. And Kepler.